In an intriguing revelation from 1904, a letter penned by Theodore W. Golden, a former soldier of the 7th Cavalry, sheds new light on General George Armstrong Custer's fateful last stand at the Battle of Little Bighorn. Golden, one of the final witnesses to see Custer alive, held onto a profound secret for decades. His first-hand account is not just a relic of history. It offers invaluable insights into one of the most scrutinized events in American history. In his poignant letter, Theodore W. Golden expressed heartfelt gratitude for the correspondence he had received on July 28 and August 2, which earnestly sought his personal anecdotes and insights concerning the climactic battle that had unfolded years prior. With a tone imbued with sincerity, Golden acknowledged the passage of time and the inevitable fading of memories that often accompanies it. He recognized that the years since that momentous occasion might have blurred some of the vivid details of the events he had witnessed, yet he felt a compelling urge to share his experiences, no matter how fragmented they might be. Golden's reflection on the passage of time reveals a profound understanding of memory itself, a fickle entity that can distort the clarity of past events. He approached the task with humility, recognizing that while his recollections may not be perfect, they held intrinsic value. In a world where first-hand accounts can often provide a more nuanced understanding of historical events, Golden's willingness to share his story was a testament to his commitment to preserving the legacy of the Battle of Little Bighorn. Despite his admission of potential inaccuracies, Golden emphasized the importance of recounting his experiences, even if he could only provide a concise narrative. He understood that every detail mattered, not just for historical accuracy but for the emotional weight they carried. His memories were intertwined with the lives of those who fought alongside him and those who faced the formidable adversary on the other side of the conflict. Each recollection held the power to breathe life into the stark realities of that day, offering a glimpse into the minds and hearts of the individuals who endured the trials of battle. Golden's decision to document his experiences also highlights a sense of duty to honor the memories of his comrades and the sacrifices they made. In a broader context, his narrative serves as a reminder that history is not merely a collection of dates and events. It is a tapestry woven from the threads of human experience, fraught with emotion, struggle, and resilience. By sharing his personal account, Golden contributed to the larger story of the battle, ensuring that the voices of those who lived through it would resonate through time. In the face of limited time, Golden's commitment to sharing his story becomes even more poignant. He recognized that each moment was precious, and the urgency to convey his thoughts added a layer of depth to his writing. The challenges of conveying complex emotions and intricate experiences in a concise manner reflect the struggles of many who seek to encapsulate their memories, particularly those tied to significant historical events. Yet, in this challenge lay a beauty, an authenticity that often arises from the struggle to express the inexpressible. As he penned his thoughts, Golden likely felt the weight of responsibility to honor not only his own memories but also those of his fellow soldiers and the Native American warriors who fought during the battle. Their stories were interwoven, and he understood that the narrative of the Little Bighorn was multifaceted, encompassing diverse perspectives and experiences. Through his letter, Golden offered not just a personal recounting of events but also an invitation for readers to engage with history on a more intimate level. He extended a bridge between the past and the present, inviting others to reflect on the significance of the Battle of Little Bighorn and the myriad of lives it touched. Ultimately, Golden's reflections in his letter encapsulate the essence of storytelling, a powerful means of preserving history and fostering understanding. By sharing his anecdotes, he ensured that the legacy of that day would endure, reminding us all that history is not solely a chronicle of what happened but a rich tapestry of human experiences that deserve to be told and remembered. His humble acknowledgement of the passage of time serves as a reminder of our shared humanity and the importance of listening to the stories that shape our collective memory. Golden's reflections are steeped in the weight of history. He conveyed his admiration for the meticulous research that has gone into the articles he read, expressing excitement about their impending publication. As someone who lived through that tumultuous period, Golden's insights provide a unique perspective, bridging the gap between the past and the present. This letter serves as a poignant reminder of the human experiences that lie behind the historical narratives we study. The struggles, fears, and bravery of individuals like Golden offer a richer understanding of the events that shaped our nation. As we explore Golden's account further, we invite you to engage with our community by liking and subscribing to our channel. Your support is vital as we delve into these remarkable stories, illuminating the shadows of history with the voices of those who were there. In response to your request, I must express the profound honor I felt in knowing General George Armstrong Custer, beginning when I enlisted in the 7th Cavalry in 1873 and continuing until his tragic death. Throughout my service in the regiment, I had the privilege of standing beside him, with the exception of 1875, when my troop was stationed in the southern states. As early spring of 1876 approached, we received word of an expedition planned against the Sioux, which would involve 3 large columns. Weeks later, marching orders came through, directing us to relocate from Shreveport, Louisiana, to Fort Lincoln in the Dakota Territory. Upon our arrival, General Custer was in Washington, where he was testifying before an investigative committee. He rejoined the regiment just days before our departure, adding a sense of urgency and purpose to our preparations. I must also mention a significant incident during our journey. General Custer was arrested in Chicago while en route from Washington. I'll forego the details of our march from Fort Lincoln to the Yellowstone, but I can tell you that we arrived near the mouth of the Powder River after a long and arduous trek. There, we spent several days outfitting our pack train, making the crucial decision to leave our wagons behind and establish a supply camp. This strategic move was essential as we braced ourselves for the challenges that lay ahead in the campaign against the Sioux. Major Reno had set out on a scouting mission a few days earlier, with plans to rejoin us near the mouth of the Tongue River on June 17. After leaving our wagon train, dismounted recruits, and the regimental band at Powder River, we moved to the Tongue River's mouth, where we established camp on the same day General Crook engaged the Indians at Rosebud. From our position, we observed distant clouds of dust, igniting our hopes that they heralded Major Reno's arrival. However, when no news came from him, we decided to break camp on the 18th and proceeded up the valley, finally joining Reno shortly after noon. At this point, I noticed a marked change in General Custer. He seemed moody, discontented, and restless. Yet, when Major Reno arrived and delivered his report, Custer's usual vigor and decisiveness swiftly returned. He immediately began organizing our command to march towards the Rosebud, where General Terry had already gone ahead on the steamer Far West, intending to converge with General Gibbon's command. The atmosphere shifted from uncertainty to a renewed sense of purpose as we prepared for the next phase of our mission. Our march continued well into the night until we reached the Yellowstone River, where we set up camp, confident that we would intercept the steamer if it was below us. The following morning, we caught sight of General Gibbon's wagon train making its way up the river, trailed by the steamer Far West. Couriers had brought news of Major Reno's discovery of a significant Indian trail, which heightened our anticipation. We soon established camp near the mouth of the Rosebud River, where a war council convened to discuss Reno's findings. The atmosphere was charged with purpose as we deliberated the next steps. The following day, preparations began for a vigorous campaign, with everyone eager to engage in the impending conflict. On the night of the 21st, a final council took place aboard the steamer, during which General Custer received his last orders. An important question was posed to General Gibbon regarding when he would be able to reach the mouth of the Little Bighorn River. His response, not before noon on the 26th, cast a shadow of uncertainty over our plans, but the urgency of our mission remained clear. The stage was set for what would become a pivotal moment in our history. During this pivotal conference, it was noted that General Custer had been offered the 2nd Cavalry Battalion in artillery from the steamer, but he declined the offer. Custer placed his trust in the abilities of his command, expressing concerns that the artillery would impede our movements as we approached the enemy. However, some officers and men speculated that this decision was part of a larger strategy to secure an independent command, a maneuver he had successfully executed in the past. On June 22, we paraded before Generals Terry and Gibbon before setting out on the trail outlined by Major Reno. We diligently followed the path until Reno made contact with the Indian village, only deviating when necessary to find suitable camping grounds. Despite having a scout available for this purpose, no effort was made to scout the surrounding area or send a courier to General Gibbon. Our marches were characterized by long, rapid movements as we pressed onward. By the night of the 24th, we took a strategic detour off the trail in an attempt to deceive the Indians. Under orders to remain saddled for a night march, we prepared for what lay ahead, aware that our actions in the coming days would determine our fate and the outcome of our campaign. After our departure from the Rosebud, General Custer's earlier restlessness resurfaced, and his thoughts were singularly focused on reaching and engaging the Indians. The trail we followed, which originated from the Missouri River agencies, indicated the presence of a substantial band of approximately 1,000 to 1,200 warriors. Around 11 o'clock, we received orders to saddle up and prepare for movement. As we readied ourselves, a scouting party that included Lieutenants Varnum and Hare set out to scout the trail across the divide, hoping to locate the Indians' position. We departed our bivouac, aiming to cross the divide and reach the foothills of the Little Bighorn before dawn. However, the rugged terrain slowed our progress considerably, and when daybreak finally arrived, we found ourselves in a ravine at the base of high bluffs, uncertain of our distance from the river. During the night, General Custer had joined the scouts who had informed him they had located the village in the Little Bighorn Valley. Yet, despite this potentially promising intelligence, Custer expressed skepticism about the validity of their report. His doubt cast a shadow over our plans, heightening the tension and uncertainty as we prepared for the confrontation that lay ahead. The stakes were high, and the urgency to confirm our intelligence weighed heavily on all of us. Our presence was soon discovered when a lost box of ammunition, containing hardtack, was stumbled upon by a detachment that encountered a group of Indians attempting to open it. This incident seemed to prompt General Custer to decide on an immediate advance. As the command was divided, Mitch Bowie, a half-breed Crow interpreter, cautioned Custer that there were more Indians in the valley than our forces could effectively confront. When Custer inquired whether Bowie was afraid, Bowie candidly replied that he was willing to accompany Custer but warned that neither of them would survive the encounter. Just before the advance was set in motion, I was detailed to report to General Custer for duty as an orderly. He instructed me to ride with Lieutenant Cook and carry out any tasks assigned to us. The men took a moment to rest, most of them finding a brief respite while the horses grazed nearby. When the time came, General Custer ordered the advance, directing that the 1st Company and Battalion prepared to take the right flank of the line. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and tension, as we all understood that the next few hours could determine the outcome of our mission and the fate of our command. We mounted our horses and prepared for the day's orders, which instructed Bentine's battalion to move left, scout the surrounding country, drive any Indians before him, and report back with any findings. Major Reno was to follow the trail closely, while General Custer, leading 5 troops, intended to strike to the right, leaving McDougal with the pack train to follow at a distance. After a half-hour of hard riding, the challenging terrain forced Custer's column to shift left, where we eventually joined Major Reno's command, who was pressing ahead on the trail. The climb was strenuous, but we persevered until we reached the top of the ridge. From this vantage point, we beheld a rolling plateau that sloped down toward the river's foothills. As our command crested the divide, We spotted Reno's column advancing rapidly down the trail, with Benteen's command scouting the bluffs to our left. We followed Reno's general course, albeit at a distance and slightly to his right. Custer appeared increasingly impatient, occasionally spurring ahead before stopping to wait for us to catch up, only to dash off again moments later. As we continued, a vast dust cloud began to rise and move down the river valley, its nature and origin unclear, igniting a mix of anxiety and anticipation among the men. The tension mounted as we sensed that we were nearing a critical juncture in our mission. Custer, accompanied by his orderly trumpeter, rode towards the river, waving his hat in salutation to someone in the distance before returning to the head of the column, led by Captain Keogh and Ike Troop. With a spark of determination in his eyes, Custer informed Keogh, "Those Indians are fleeing. If we maintain the pursuit, we can afford to sacrifice half the horses." Keogh replied resolutely, "General, we shall do all that man and horse can do." Moments later, the bugles blared the charge, and we thundered northward down the river, eager to descend into the valley. After several unsuccessful attempts to navigate the rugged terrain, Custer conferred with Captain Cook, who quickly scribbled a note and handed it to me with orders to deliver it to Major Reno and remain with him until we regrouped. I hastened towards Reno's command, locating it by the dust cloud rising above them. After a 6-mile ride, I finally caught up with Reno just as he dismounted to engage the enemy on foot. I delivered the dispatch, completely unaware of its contents. Reno glanced at the note before pocketing it, his expression unreadable as he prepared to confront the challenges ahead. The air was thick with tension, and I felt the weight of our mission pressing down on us as we braced for what was to come. Around this time, the Re-Scouts, overwhelmed by the unfolding chaos, panicked and fled towards Powder River. The Indians, taking advantage of the disarray, flanked us and closed in from behind, forcing our retreat into the shelter of the timber. Here, amid the dense cover and along the riverbank, we were able to establish a more effective defense against the onslaught. Captain Moylan quickly prepared his troop for action, and Lieutenant Wallace, stationed on the skirmish line, called out to Captain French for orders. French, assessing the situation, suggested we mount our horses and support the charge. However, as we began to prepare to mount, we discovered that approximately 15 men were dismounted, caught without their mounts in the ensuing chaos. Lieutenant McIntosh commandeered a trooper's horse, eliciting a resigned remark from the trooper that we were all doomed anyway. As we emerged from the timber, we were struck by the sight of Reno charging the bluffs across the river, his men moving with urgency as they faced the threat before them. The Indians massed on our flanks, firing upon us with a ferocity that only heightened the tension of the moment. Fortunately, their marksmanship was lacking, and our losses remained minimal despite the danger that surrounded us. In the midst of this turmoil, rumors circulated regarding Reno's actions during the skirmish. It was reported that he had discarded his revolver in a moment of desperation. However, this account was inaccurate. The revolver in question has since been located with General Benteen's family. This miscommunication only added to the confusion and uncertainty we faced as the battle raged on, yet the resolve of our men held strong as we braced ourselves for the fight ahead. The air was thick with the sounds of gunfire and the cries of the wounded, a stark reminder of the harsh realities of war and the critical decisions that lay ahead for all of us. During the retreat, my horse suddenly stumbled and fell, sending me tumbling into a patch of sagebrush, where I briefly found myself suffocating under the weight of the foliage. Lieutenant Wallace, seeing my predicament, called out to me to run for the timber, urgently warning me that my horse had been killed. With adrenaline coursing through me, I dashed towards the safety of the trees, reaching the timber just moments later. From my concealed vantage point within the thicket, I witnessed the harrowing sight of our men attempting to cross the river. Among them was Lieutenant Hodgson, who, though wounded, was struggling valiantly to make it across with the help of a comrade. Tragically, he was struck again as he crossed and fell to the ground, still firing at the Indians until he ultimately succumbed to his injuries. As our men successfully navigated the river and ascended a ravine, I realized I had become isolated, unnoticed as the Indians shifted their focus to stripping and mutilating the bodies of the fallen. In this moment of chaos, I spotted the scout George Herendine, and we quickly reunited. He informed me that the dismounted men had found a point in the hills where I could seek shelter. Together, we observed the Indians' activities from our hidden position, watching as the dismounted men in the distance struggled with their own wounds and the relentless pressure from the enemy. As the ravine continued to descend into the valley, my heart raced when I saw an Indian approaching the edge of the timber. Realizing I was unarmed, I felt a rush of vulnerability wash over me. I was defenseless in that moment, acutely aware of how precarious our situation had become. The tension hung thick in the air as I braced for what might come next, the specter of danger looming ever closer. Dean Springfield's rifle, surprisingly loaded, fired a round that struck one of the approaching Indians. This unexpected moment of reprieve provided us with the critical opportunity to flee. We quickly scrambled up the hillside, navigating the treacherous terrain as we climbed to the crest, where we hoped to rejoin our command. The journey was perilous and exhausting. Each step felt like a test of our resolve, but the well-positioned bluff provided us with a measure of concealment that we desperately needed. As we ascended, a mix of adrenaline and fear surged through me. The sounds of battle, the gunfire, the cries of the wounded, and the chaotic shouts echoed in my ears. Our survival felt uncertain, yet we clung to the belief that we had evaded immediate danger, at least for the moment. However, the grim reality of our situation weighed heavily on us, especially as we contemplated Custer's fate. Although we had heard no reports of his death, the uncertainty gnawed at our spirits, and we couldn't help but worry about what might have transpired without us. The events of that day were unfolding in ways we could not fully comprehend. The air was thick with tension as we pressed on, our hearts racing with each hurried step. The landscape around us was both familiar and alien, marked by the scars of conflict and the reminders of lives forever changed. As we navigated the hills, I glanced back at the valley below, where chaos reigned. The sight of our comrades fighting valiantly against overwhelming odds made me acutely aware of how fragile our situation truly was. It was June 1876, a day destined to leave an indelible mark on the annals of history. As the sun rose over the vast plains, casting a warm glow on the landscape, each moment felt like a page in a tragic narrative, one that would be recounted and analyzed for generations to come. The Battle of Little Bighorn was not merely a clash of arms, it was a profound convergence of destinies, where the fates of countless individuals intertwined in a dramatic, often heartbreaking tapestry. On that fateful day, the air was thick with anticipation and tension, every breath heavy with the knowledge that the course of history hung in the balance. The soldiers of the 7th Cavalry, led by General George Armstrong Custer, prepared themselves for a confrontation that promised to be as chaotic as it was significant. Their banners fluttered in the breeze, and the sounds of horses snorting and soldiers murmuring filled the air, creating an atmosphere charged with both bravado and apprehension. As Custer and his men advanced, they carried with them the weight of expectation. For many, this battle was a chance to solidify their legacy, to prove their mettle in the face of adversity. Yet, beneath the surface of their bravado lay an undercurrent of uncertainty. They were venturing into a conflict that was not merely a military engagement but also a clash of cultures, ideologies, and lives. The stakes were high. The outcome would resonate far beyond the battlefield, shaping the narratives of both the United States and Native American tribes for generations. Meanwhile, the Lakota Sioux and their allies prepared to defend their homeland against what they perceived as an existential threat. For them, this battle was not just about territory, it was about survival, honor, and the preservation of their way of life. As they gathered their warriors, the spirit of their ancestors surged through them, imbuing their resolve with a fierce determination. They understood that the outcome of this confrontation would determine the fate of their people and their culture in a rapidly changing world. As the day wore on, the cacophony of battle erupted. Gunfire rang out, and the shouts of men filled the air, intermingling with the cries of the wounded and dying. The landscape transformed into a chaotic theater, where valor and desperation played out in vivid detail. Each shot fired marked not only a moment in time but also a crucial decision, a split-second choice that would echo through the lives of those involved. The soldiers of Custer's command charged into the fray with a mix of courage and trepidation. They were driven by a sense of duty and the hope of victory, yet they faced a formidable enemy that was resolute in its defense. The Lakota warriors fought with an intensity born from a deep connection to their land and a fierce commitment to their people. Each clash represented not just a military engagement but also a deeper struggle for identity and survival. Amid the chaos, moments of heroism and tragedy emerged, weaving a complex narrative that would forever alter the lives of those present. Bonds were forged in the heat of battle, and friendships were tested against the backdrop of loss. Stories of bravery and sacrifice unfolded in real time, as soldiers on both sides faced their mortality and the stark realities of war. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and crimson, the battle reached its climax. The noise of combat faded into an eerie stillness, punctuated only by the cries of the wounded. The once vibrant landscape was now marked by the scars of conflict, a somber reminder of the price paid by both sides. In the aftermath, the Battle of Little Bighorn would stand as a symbol of resistance and resilience, not only for the Lakota Sioux but for Native Americans across the continent. It would serve as a potent reminder of the complexities of war, identity, and the intertwining fates of those who found themselves on opposite sides of a profound historical divide. The echoes of that day would reverberate through time, shaping the narratives of nations and communities, ensuring that the events of June 1876 would never be forgotten. Each retelling would carry with it the weight of loss, the courage of those who fought, and the hope for understanding in a world forever changed by conflict. As we finally crested the hill, a wave of relief washed over me upon spotting familiar faces among our command. The sight of my comrades, weary but resolute, provided a much-needed anchor in the storm of uncertainty we had been navigating. In those trying moments, their presence was a balm for my frayed nerves, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the chaos that surrounded us. We exchanged silent glances, an unspoken language binding us together in the shared understanding of the trials we had faced. Each look conveyed a myriad of emotions: fear, relief, determination, and a solemn recognition of the gravity of our situation. It was as if we were all acutely aware of the invisible weight resting upon our shoulders, an amalgamation of the losses we had witnessed and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. The landscape around us was both familiar and foreign, marked by the remnants of the battle that had transpired. The smell of gunpowder still hung in the air, mingling with the earthy scent of the surrounding sagebrush and timber. As we stood together, I could hear the distant echoes of gunfire and the muffled cries of the wounded, reminders that the struggle was far from over. Each sound was a haunting reminder of the price we were paying, a price that some of our bravest comrades had already paid in full. Despite the fatigue that weighed heavily on us, we knew we had to gather our wits and muster the strength for what was to come. The adrenaline coursing through our veins acted as a temporary lifeline, allowing us to push aside the exhaustion that threatened to engulf us. As we strategized our next steps, I couldn't help but feel the deep bond that had formed among us, a brotherhood forged in the fires of adversity. Each of us had been tested, and we knew that our survival depended on the unity we could maintain in the face of overwhelming odds. While our physical surroundings were littered with the remnants of battle, our emotional landscape was no less tumultuous. The uncertainty about Custer's fate loomed over us like a dark cloud, threatening to suffocate our spirits. We shared whispers of concern, our voices barely above a murmur, as we speculated about the fate of our general in the larger fight against the encroaching forces of the Indians. We were on the precipice of history, and none of us knew how the pages of this story would ultimately turn. As we regrouped, the command began to take stock of our numbers, assessing the extent of our losses. The sight of vacant spaces where once lively men had stood brought a chill to my heart. We all understood that the battle had exacted a heavy toll, yet the resolve among us remained unshaken. We had not come this far to falter now. We would fight for those who could no longer stand beside us. Amidst the tension, a sense of purpose began to crystallize. We were not just fighting for our own survival. We were fighting for the legacy of those who had fallen. Each of us carried the memories of our comrades with us, fueling our determination to push forward. We would honor their sacrifice by ensuring that their stories lived on through our actions. As we prepared to descend from the hill and rejoin the fray, I felt a surge of camaraderie enveloping us. We clasped hands and exchanged nods, silently reaffirming our commitment to one another. We would face whatever lay ahead together, drawing strength from the shared experiences that had woven us into a single unit. United by purpose and resolve, we steeled ourselves for the challenges that awaited us on the battlefield below. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a fight for our lives, our honor, and the very essence of who we were as soldiers in this tumultuous time in history. We gathered our breath and prepared ourselves for the next phase of the fight, knowing that the struggles were far from over. Each man understood that our survival depended on our ability to work together, to support one another in the face of adversity. The bond forged in the crucible of battle was unbreakable, and as we moved forward, we felt the weight of our collective history bearing down upon us. Thank you for joining us as we explore the insights of this letter detailing the Battle of Little Bighorn. This narrative offers a glimpse into the harrowing experiences of those who fought and struggled on that fateful day. Stay tuned for more historical discoveries on our channel, as we delve deeper into the stories that shaped our past and the legacies that continue to resonate today. Through these accounts, we honor the courage and resilience of those who came before us, ensuring that their stories are never forgotten.